Davis.
Mr. Speaker, I te tuatahi ka huri ake a hau ki te Atiawa nā koutou nei I whakamahana tia tō tātou whare. Nā koutou I tātou mai ki konei ki a rongo I tēnei te pānuitanga tuatahi o te pire e pā ana ki ngā hara o te krauna ki a koutou o koutou tūpuna I taua wā. E mahara, mihi kauna ki a koe e te tuākana. Nau nei I whakamahana tia ngā tūru o tēnei whare I tō wā, nau nei hoki whakapau o kaha. Mō tō iwi. Mr. Speaker, about 2 weeks ago, I actually visited Sir Mark Solomon of Ngai Tahu, a tribe that settled some 20 years ago. And he actually heaped praise on the current Minister for Treaty Settlements, Honourable Christopher Finlayson. And he said one of the things that Chris Finlayson does is actually acknowledges the hurt and the pain before he acknowledges the quantums that come back. And he said that's really, really important in that when we start talking about $85 million in redress, people focus on the $85 million in redress. They say, what a huge amount of money. What all these Māoris that they've just got their hands out again, all they're doing is just asking for more, we're sick and tired of it. It leads to questions such as in that survey in the Herald the other day that says, should Māori be getting special treatment? The reality is we need to look at what Te Atiawa lost. In 1865, some 1,199,000 acres, 1,199,000 acres were confiscated from Te Atiawa. Let's just let that register in our minds, the enormity of that confiscation. A whole tribe of people all of a sudden have nowhere to put their house, sink their roots, grow their crops. Let's just let that settle into our minds, the extent of that confiscation, and how some 5, 6, 7 generations later it's led to a whole heap of social conditions that Māori aren't proud of. Let me just quote Peter Moyahu to the Waitangi Tribunal in 1990. He said, when I look at a map of Taranaki and trace the confiscation line, it is an arrow piercing the heart of my people. Poignant words. Taurua of Pakakohi to the West Coast Commission, who Nick Korako has mentioned that commission. He said, Taurua, you and your people have done wrong in rebelling against the Queen. And I answered, I have not done wrong. I have not carried arms against the Queen, but against you, and now you say it is done against the Queen. The numbers of sins and hara, as we say, that have been committed in the name of the Queen and the Crown, and it's only appropriate that the Crown rectifies those hara. You see, Te Atiawa was peacefully occupying their land, and all of a sudden these people turn up into the neighbourhood. They set up their houses, they start ploughing the land up, they're actually allowed to have weapons. Weapons to protect themselves. And basically they used those weapons to dispossess Te Atiawa of their land. Now, if these days a group of people turned up into the neighbourhood with a bunch of weapons and intimidated and threatened and pushed people to the side, we'd have a name for them, we'd call them gangs. In the 1860s, they were called settlers. How times have changed. And these settlers, in these days, if gangs turned up into neighbourhoods, we'd have the force of the government, the Crown, the police, everyone would turn up and pounce on these gangs and lock them up and throw away the key. What happened in the 1860s? The Crown, the forces turned up, and who gets locked up? Not the people who invade the hood, but the people who are living there peacefully, going about their daily business. Locked up at times without trial, sometimes with trial. And they'd be sentenced, and they'd go away, and the sentence would end, and they'd still be locked up. The total dispossession of Te Atiawa's land is what occurred. So if I turned up in someone's quarter-acre section in any town in New Zealand these days, and the person had a house on this section, and I said, look, actually, I like the corner of your section there. I'm going to build my house. I'm going to build my house there, and the landowner or the house owner says, oh, sorry, you can't do that. That's mine. If this was 1865, I could say, oh, actually, you're rebelling. And so I've got the right to actually basically evict you, force you off your land. But because you're rebelling, I'm not just going to take that little corner of your quarter-acre section, I'm going to take the whole section. Actually, damn it, I'm going to take your neighbour's section on the left, and I'm going to take your neighbour's section on the right. No. Actually, I'm going to take the whole street. No, while I'm at it, I'm going to take the whole subdivision. Because that is basically what happened to Te Atiawa back in the 1860s. These guys turned up, made their farms. Te Atiawa said, hey, you can't go there, this is our land. Oh, you're resisting, off you go. And because you're resisting, because you're rebelling against us, because you're taking up arms with the Queen, we're actually going to take 1.2 million acres. And so when people are watching this debate and they're going, oh, here we go, here's another tribe putting out their hand, they want $87 million, they want a seat on the council here, they want control of Ngāmotu Islands, oh my gosh, aren't we sick of it? When are these Māoris going to stop this? Actually, let's not focus on what Māori are going to receive, let's focus in the first instance what Te Atiawa have lost. Because when they were dispossessed of their land, they were dispossessed of their rangatiratanga, they were dispossessed of their mana, they were dispossessed of everything, they were locked up, key was thrown away, they were sent away, and it's just wrong. And so that's why this Parliament now, 150 years later, is doing something about it. And people will say, oh look, 150 years, you should have just got over it by now. Well, actually, some of the people who were dispossessed were probably the grandparents of people sitting up here in the gallery right now. They know or knew people who were dispossessed. It isn't ancient history. It actually is in their family. They feel it. So the grandiose plan was to settle some 20,000 settlers from Waikato through Taranaki, establish their settlements, set up shop. There's going to be 1,000 miles of road. Trouble is, somebody has to pay for that. And so what happened is the powers that be took out a £4 million imperial loan to pay for all these roads. And then they go, oh crikey, we've got a £4 million debt. How are we going to actually pay back that debt? Well, let's just sell off all the surplus land at a decent price and let's pay back that loan that way. So, invade an area, confiscate all the land, settle your new people there, take out the loan to pay for the roads and the establishment of towns and everything. And the way to pay it all back is to sell off any land you don't want, and you're debt-free, and all of a sudden you're ruled or joint. When land was returned, finally returned, well, and we can argue whether it was actually returned, land was set aside. It was non-customary. It was individualised title. So individualised title means it's just chopped up and it's easy to pick people off. And especially when you're given the land and you're told to pay rates, you can't afford the rates. Oh, well, we're going to take your land. So more land's gone. It was rough, it was inaccessible, so they couldn't grow crops to sell to the market to pay their rates or whatever. And then some of it was placed in the control of the public trustee, who said, actually, we're going to sell this off and we're going to lease this bit in perpetuity to settlers. So here's your land, but you can't have it. You can look, but you can't touch. Now, how wrong is that? Every day these people drive past their land that in theory they own, but they can't do anything with it. They can't touch it, and there's some settler's family that's been there for 150 years just milking it. Literally milking it. You know, what Te Atiawa lost is just a fraction. It's probably 1 cent in the dollar, if that, of what they're getting back. So to anybody who's out there listening and watching and saying, hey, Te Atiawa, you know, get over it, I just say, actually, take those rose-coloured spectacles off and actually have a big think through what was lost before you worry about what's being returned. Kia ora.